This is Module 3 of URC Reviewer Training, Reviewing Proposals. So once you are actually in the review screen itself, looking through all of those review criteria and checking out the whole proposal, each proposal that you're completing a review for, you will be reviewing on a 3-point scale. So before you do any actual scoring or making comments, make sure that you have looked at all of the attachments and the fillable fields included with each application. So the applications will certainly have some attachments to the side. People may have different numbers of attachments. Some of the attachments are optional, but there will be a number of fillable fields that will be included in the full application. So you'll be able to see them in the PDF version of the application, but you'll also be able to open up the details of the application within the reviewer screen so that you can see what those filled fields are. So just make sure you're looking at all elements of the proposal before evaluating any of the review criteria. So for each criteria, you will be giving it a number on a scale from 0 to 2. 0 means that the proposal has done an unacceptable job at evaluating or at addressing this criteria. 1, they've done an acceptable, okay job at addressing it. And number 2 is they've done an exceptional job. It is clear they have gotten to the point. You totally understand what's happening with their proposal and their project with regards to this specific criterion. So in the review screen itself, there will be a series of text boxes and rating scales. So each question is attached to a rating scale and has its own comment box. So we ask that in the comment box, you address the strengths and weaknesses of the proposal with regards to the criterion that is referenced at the top. You will need to include comments there, and we ask that you consider including constructive criticism along with positive comments, because folks may not be funded, even if you'd like them to be funded. Sometimes folks don't get, not everybody that we want to fund can be funded. So they may be in a position where they are getting a revise and resubmit recommendation from you all, and they need to have something to work with. So even if it was an overwhelmingly good proposal, try to think about some ways that they might improve the proposal in the future. And likewise, don't just only put negative comments. If they have done something well, identify it and praise them for doing a good job in addressing those things as stuff that they should continue to do in future proposals that they may be working on. So the panel decision mirrors the individual reviews. So you'll see a review panel that addresses each criterion with strengths and weaknesses and a rating scale. You'll do that for your preliminary reviews. Then you'll meet as a full panel to make your final funding recommendations. And you and the panel chair are going to work together to fill out this final funding recommendation screen. And it's going to be exactly the same as the preliminary review screen, essentially, with the exception of the final question. So that final comment box is an overall rating of the whole proposal, and the option to give some overall comments or feedback. That's in the preliminary review. In the full panel final funding recommendation review part, that final question will ask you to make a final funding recommendation. 0 being do not fund, 1 meaning maybe fund if things grow crazy and we have a ton of money left over, and 2, definitely strongly consider this for funding. We think it's a good proposal. So an important thing to note here is that if you want a proposal to be strongly considered for funding, give it a 2. All right. So some folks in the past have given it a 1 because they were sort of on the fence about it, but really they did want it to be discussed in the final voting meeting. Make sure that you are giving the ones that you want to be seriously considered a 2 score. Don't inflate these scores, but do be realistic about which ones you would really like to be considered strongly getting a 2. Reviewing outside of your discipline is going to be a very real thing. Okay, so you all are in broad disciplinary panels. You'll be sorted either into an arts and humanities panel, a social sciences, business and education panel, or a STEM and health panel. Historically, we've had the opportunity to separate STEM and health, but we've had to put them back together based on URC reviewer availability and departments or colleges that they're represented. So you are in broad disciplinary panels. However, you will always be in the position of reviewing outside of your discipline. It will be very rare that you will be reviewing a proposal that you know almost everything about in terms of methodology. Same, likewise, you may be reviewing proposals that come from really interdisciplinary teams or proposals that span the boundaries of multiple fields and methodologies and things that you just might generally be unfamiliar with. That's okay, and that's great. So what we ask the applicants to do is I said this on the review criteria video as well, they need to be making sure that you can understand the significance and impact of their project as a non-specialist. So they need to be conveying that impact and importance and the real reason that they need to be funded. They need to be articulating that to anyone, to a broad general audience. Okay, so if they have not done that well, then you need to reflect that in your reviews. So by tying those to specific review criteria and comments, but making sure that indicating where things aren't clear. Okay, so it should not matter that you are reviewing outside of your discipline. We trust you to be well informed. You are well educated reviewers, and you're even specialists in some things. So you may be able to speak to some things like methodology, for example, but you may not know about other stuff, and that's should be okay, right? So they should have done a really good job of articulating their project, even if you're outside of that discipline, but making sure that you're being aware that this can happen and having an open mind and being willing to review any proposal that comes your way. And you are able to provide good critical feedback regardless of what discipline the proposal is in. Each applicant is self-selecting the panel that they are being reviewed by, and they are also writing a brief panel selection justification. So you may see an application from somebody who is in social work, for example, and they may not have chosen to submit their proposal to the health and STEM panel. They may have chosen to submit it to the social sciences, business, and education panel, and they'll explain why they've done that. So you should take that into consideration as well as them being the experts and understanding that they have made and you should trust that they've made a good decision for themselves about where the proposal should be reviewed. If you feel super strongly that a proposal absolutely does not belong in your panel, you will need to bring that up with me very soon. As soon as you have the first access to those proposals, make sure you're taking a look and seeing if any of them need to be reviewed. It is a very rare scenario in which we move proposals from panel to panel, but we can if the whole panel feels super strongly about that and that you feel like that panel selection justification is just not appropriate. All right. So you may also be able to you will be able to see in your preliminary reviews, chair reviews. So you'll be able to see those in the view other reviews feature and the InfoReady platform. So panel chairs, not panel chairs, excuse me, department chairs will have either said yes or no as they approve an application moving forward in the competition. If they say yes, they are supposed to fill out that comment box with NA. Not supposed to make any additional comments. Now, sometimes they will provide comments. If they have written some wonderful, glowing, lengthy chair comment, you're not supposed to take that into consideration. All right. So just disregard it and move on with your life. Now, if they've indicated no, they do not support the application moving forward in the competition, I'll probably have flagged that for you. And so you'll know that they have said no ahead of time. You need to read their rationale for why they say it and consider it. It does not necessarily mean that that kills the proposal, but it may be something that we need to discuss, involve perhaps the vice provost for research and innovation. But you'll need to consider that if they say no. Otherwise, if they say yes and they've written something, just disregard whatever they have written, as you cannot let it influence your review decision. Excuse me. And we also want you to consider the allowable costs, unallowable costs, that sort of thing that we discussed in the last video. So making sure that when you're reviewing and providing feedback on that budget line item in particular, that you are approving a proposal or reviewing a proposal with particular eye, that they have not included something in the budget that's unallowable. And again, you can't leave a comment box blank, so you'll need to provide some comments, and please take the time to think through what sort of feedback you're going to provide to them, as that will help them prepare future proposals, submissions, either for the URC resubmission process or for another funding organization. So please provide conscientious comments. So we really ask that when you are providing feedback to folks, and I think that we've done a good job with the InfoReady platform and building the rubric the way that we have, that it's conducive to this, but you really want all the comments that you are providing to an applicant to tie directly back to the review criteria. And if you cannot tie the comment that you're making back to a review element, then it probably should be left out. You may want to include it in your preliminary review just to bring up with a discussion with your panel, but honestly, decisions should not be made on anything other than the review criteria that we are providing both to the applicants when they're conceptualizing and writing their proposals, and when you're making your feedback and evaluations. So you may even want to include those criteria excerpts to support your feedback comments. And of course, we're humans. It's impossible to avoid subjective opinions, but you need to be tying your opinions and your comments directly back to the stated expectations of the URC grant mechanism.